Hello, good evening, and welcome to News Central TV. My name is Mazino Apil. Here are the stories making headlines beyond the continent. We begin with updates on the death of Pope. Now, global tributes are still pouring in after first ever Latin American pontiff died on Easter Monday. The Vatican has announced that Pope Francis' funeral will be held on Saturday, the 26th of April at 10 a.m. local time, in front of St. Peter's Basilica. Now, the late pontiff will be moved to the Basilica on Wednesday morning, where his body will lie in state for public viewing until burial. The Pope, who served for 12 years, is currently laid out in a coffin at the Santa Marta residence. His decision to be buried at the Basilica of St. Mary Major rather than in the traditional Vatican crypt marks a significant break from papal tradition. Cardinal Giovanni Battista Re will lead the funeral mass, which will conclude with a final commendation. According to Vatican custom, the conclave to elect a successor will follow the funeral. Now moving on, predicting the outcome of the highly secretive papal conclave is notoriously difficult, with cardinals shifting alliances and also strategic voting complicating any predictions. As the Catholic Church prepares to select the successor to Pope Francis, several key candidates have emerged. News Central's international correspondent Afia Hagen takes a look at the frontrunners.
In Vatican City, speculation is swirling over who might next lead the world's 1.3 billion Catholics. So, who are the frontrunners? Cardinal Pietro Parolin, Italy's 70-year-old Secretary of State, is seen as a moderate continuity candidate, closely aligned with Pope Francis. Parolin has handled delicate negotiations, notably with China, earning both praise as a diplomat and criticism as a pragmatist. Luis Antonio Tagle from the Philippines, aged 67, could become the first Asian pope. Once considered Pope Francis's preferred successor, Tagle champions a more compassionate stance on social issues, but retains conservative views on abortion. From Ghana, 76-year-old Peter Turkson could make history as the first black pope in centuries. He's recognized for advocating action on climate change and economic justice, whilst maintaining traditional church positions, albeit with softened views on homosexuality. Hungary's Péter Ebro, at 72, represents the conservative wing. Known for strict adherence to doctrine, Erdo has openly opposed some of Pope Francis's progressive initiatives, aligning closely with nationalist ideologies. Italian Cardinal Matteo Zuppi, aged 69, appointed by Pope Francis, leans progressive, notably engaging diplomatically as the Vatican peace envoy to Ukraine. He's liberal regarding social issues and committed to addressing poverty and marginalization. Portugal's José Talantino Salasa de Mendonça, aged just 59, is admired for modernizing attitudes, but may be seen as too young by fellow cardinals, wary of delaying their own chances. Mario Grech from Malta, aged 68, initially conservative, has evolved to support progressive reforms, including roles for women within the church and criticism of restrictive European migration policies. Pier Battista Pizzaballa, aged 60, the Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem, gained international attention by offering himself as a hostage in Gaza to free children, marking him as a compassionate leader, but leaving his stance on controversial issues largely unknown. Lastly, Guinea's Robert Serra, aged 79, is a staunch traditionalist, outspoken against gender ideology and Islamic fundamentalism, and would also represent a historic choice as the first black pope in modern history. With no clear frontrunner, the conclave's decision remains uncertain, echoing the surprise election of Pope Francis himself in 2013. For News Central, I'm Afia Hagen.
Now, for more on this, I'm joined by our international correspondent, Afia Hagen. Afia, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll just be needing an update from the Vatican City from you this evening, if you will.
Yes, so this evening in the Vatican City, you have lots of people gathering. So from tomorrow, they'll be able to see the Pope's body lying in state. He will be there from around 11 a.m. tomorrow morning, and people have up until 7 p.m. on Friday evening to be able to pay their respects and file past the coffin. Now, Vatican sources have revealed some more information about the final hours of the Pope's life. We saw him on Easter Sunday, turning up in the Pope-mobile at St. Peter's Square. He greeted crowds, and then he was wheeled out onto the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica. Now, Vatican sources have now said that on Monday morning, the Pope woke up at around 6 a.m. and was fine for at least an hour, but then at 7 a.m., the Vatican's medical team received an emergency call from his Casa Santa Marta apartment, excuse me. They requested an urgent transfer to Rome's Gemelli Hospital. That is the hospital that he spent 38 days in earlier on this year. They also requested an urgent police escort, but that was cancelled because of the quick deterioration of the Pope's condition, and it was cancelled before 7:35 a.m., and that's the time that we know he died. Some more details about his last hours just being revealed in the past couple of hours here.
Well, Afia, that's all the time we can take with you, but thank you very much for bringing us up to speed. Now let's turn to the future of the Catholic Church as it mourns its leader. I have two priests of the Catholic Church joining me to broaden the conversation now. Reverend Father Clarius Uhu, he joins me from Turin in Italy, while Reverend Father Vincent Bucci joins me from Anambra State here in Nigeria, southeast. Welcome, gentlemen. Now, I'm going to start with Father Clarius. If you will, please help us understand the importance of the papacy, particularly as a symbol of unity for Catholics across different cultures and nations.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't know if you are hearing me very well, but
oh, we can hear you very well. Thank you very much.
Efforts to hear you from me. I've tried to adjust my volume, but it's not improving. But I'll try because I think I got the question. Yes, the question is about Pope as a symbol of unity in the universal church, that is the Catholic Church.
Yes, indeed.
Yes. Pope, we call him the successor of St. Peter because, you know, in the 12 apostles, Jesus specifically told Peter that he's going to be the rock upon which he's going to build his church. And the Pope is a direct successor of St. Peter. Why do we call him direct successor? Because the Vatican, the Basilica of St. Peter in Vatican was constructed on the tomb of St. Peter. And whoever takes up that position becomes a successor of St. Peter. And like St. Peter was also the symbol of unity among the 12 apostles of Jesus, also the Pope, whoever becomes the Pope, becomes the symbol of unity first among his brother bishops, because we have also to recognize that Pope is also one of the bishops. He's a bishop of Rome, and being the one succeeding St. Peter, he's also a kind of leader of other bishops and the leader of all the Catholic Church. So that his position puts him in a very favorable position to govern, but not in the political sense of governing, but in the spiritual sense of overlooking, animating the universal church. Pope is the successor of St. Peter. Pope is a symbol of unity. And Pope Francis tried his possible best in this means to make sure that the Church of Christ, the Catholic Church, and all the followers of Christ are united under one faith. Okay. And he himself, in his lifetime, made even more efforts in looking out for other faiths. If people who are not even Christian, who are not even Catholic, he tried to construct and continue to work and build this unity.
All right, then, Father.
This we can see the effort he made in reaching out to the Muslim brothers, the effort he made in reconciling the church, apologizing on behalf of the Catholic Church for the self-abuse, the mistakes of the church in the past. Pope Francis was bold enough to say, the church in the past has made some mistake. Sorry, he said sorry without even missing a word, and looked for that all the followers of Christ, we can unite, and all the people of God, all the children of God, irrespective of religion, that we are together. The Pope remained the symbol of unity.
All and now, thank you, Father Caius.
Since yesterday, that the Pope Francis.
Thank you very much, Father Caius. I'd like to come to Father Vincent now. Father Vincent, if you can hear us, this is the first time we'll be having cardinal candidates with very diverse cultural backgrounds here, and most of them actually appointed by Father Francis himself. How will this impact the conclave that we're looking forward to? Father Vincent.
Yeah, good evening. I think that will be quite interesting. Of course, Pope Francis appointed about 80% of the cardinal electors who are going to enter the conclave. Of course, we can preempt that there's a more likely that this cardinal might try to continue with the values of Pope Francis. We talked about inclusivity, the compassion, going out to people, that the church is, like Pope Francis said, the church is like a field hospital, which is where people come for healing and mercy, and not where people come for judgment. So it's more likely that they also continue also in legacy too. So that is a probability, but also, of course, Francis purpose, of course, shaped a lot of Catholic direction and all that. So we look forward to it. So there's that possibility that they may try to continue these values and legacies of Francis.
Okay. Father Vincent, Father Caius has just highlighted some of the qualities of the late Pope Francis. So in your opinion, what qualities should the next Pope possess to continue Pope Francis' vision? Father Vincent, please.
Well, talking about the quality, I think all the cardinal electors who are going to enter the conclave, all of them possess the quality that is needed to be a very good Pope. Of course, we could see Francis possessed this, the quality of compassion, mercy, and all reaching out to people and wanting to be close to people, wanting to bring Christ to the people. So all the cardinals have I think every cardinal entering the conclave have this quality. And that is why all of them who is made cardinal, of course, they are trusted that they could make a good Pope. So the important thing is to continue with the doctrine of the Catholic Church, which all of them are capable of doing so. Mm-hmm. So we believe that all of them have this quality.
Okay. Now, Father Caius, I'm coming to you. I hope you can hear us now. I'd like to know what you think conclave is going to be like this year because of the diversity of the cardinal candidates. The implications of this diversity, how would it manifest in conclave this year? Father Caius.
I must tell you, it must be a very interesting conclave this time around, because one of the things Pope Francis did in the last years of his papacy is to elect into the position of cardinal younger bishops and younger cardinals. And by doing so, Pope Francis was also very wise and intelligent that he touched almost every part of the world in his appointment of new cardinals. So we are going to have a cardinal in which almost every continent of the world is well represented. The age, we have a good age, that means we have young, we have great experienced ones. So it's going to be very interesting, this conclave. And like I told you, when I think of conclave, I think of a gathering of great men of God. It's a spiritual gathering in which the cardinals will be listening to the Holy Spirit, and they are going to allow themselves to be used by the Holy Spirit to elect a new Pope who will come in with his own qualities, good characteristics, and his uniqueness in leading the Catholic Church. We have really enjoyed the purpose of Pope Francis, and we are very much optimistic that the Holy Spirit that gave us Pope Francis is still going to give us another Pope that will be great in his own unique way.
Okay. Well,
let us not make a mistake and begin to look at conclave as a political election, and no, it's going to be a gathering in which the cardinals will be coming from all over the world, everybody coming with his own wealth of experience from the part of the world he is coming, and the cardinals are going to listen to each other, and at the end of the day, I'm promising you that the Holy Spirit is going to intervene, and we are going to have another great Pope, as God has always given us.
Okay. Well, now let me come to Father Vincent. I'd like to know, what roles do you see for the next Pope? Regarding, if you take a look at Father Francis's tenure there, where he touched on very diverse issues, whether it was the LGBT community, he embraced those, and he was rather political as well. So what roles do you see the next Pope embracing to continue his vision, Father Vincent?
I think when it comes to that issue of the LGBT, the new Pope will continue what they stand on the church in reference to these people. Of course, the stand of the church has always been that you condemn the act, but not the people. And that's exactly what Pope Francis did. So what the church is saying, finding the pastoral care for people like this. So, and that Pope Francis did exactly that. And that's why he said, "Who am I to judge?" So the church does not condemn the people, but condemn the act. And Pope Francis said it profoundly, "Who am I to judge?" And he said again, when you judge people, you have no time to love them. And because the church teaches that the love of God embraces everyone, both the sinners and saints alike. So no one is excluded from the love of God. So the important thing is, how do we the pastoral care for the people. Of course, the issue like also the divorce and remarriage, then talking about do they return for communion and so many other issues that are around it. So the same thing applies. So the new Pope will continue this role of what the church is teaching in this regard. Of course, the manner approach to this teaching might differ, but the substance of the teaching remains the same, just like Pope Francis. So we could see that coming. So the same thing also apply. The finding a pastoral care that can also accommodate everyone, no matter the sexual orientation and whatever. So because all of us are part of the church, and the love of God embraces all of us.
All right then. Well, thank you very much, Father Vincent and Father Caius, for joining us this evening to shed light on the matters at hand. Thank you indeed.
Thank you.
Now we go on a short break, and when we come back, early voting starts ahead of 3rd May Australia general elections. Details of this and more after the break. Hi, welcome back. Early voting has opened in Australia's national elections ahead of the official polling day on 3rd May. Polling stations open to voters who, for a variety of reasons, will be unable to vote on May 3rd. Around half of the votes are expected to be cast before then. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and opposition leader Peter Dutton cancelled events out of respect for the late pontiff. Flags were flown at half-staff at government buildings across the country, where a 2021 census found 20% of the population was Catholic. Albanese, who has described himself as a flawed Catholic, attended Mass in honor of the Pope in Melbourne's St. Patrick's Cathedral.
We do need immigration, of course. My parents came from other countries, you know, and but it needs to fit in with what Australia needs in regards to jobs and services and that sort of stuff. Well, I'm all for nuclear power. You know, all the biggest countries in the world are using nuclear power. France exports nuclear power. You know, it's and I travel to Japan a few times a year. They have nuclear power. You know, there's never really any issues with the safety of it. Oh, it's going to be pretty tight. But you can't really judge the polling day because, you know, there's been elections where the polls have been completely wrong when Tony Abbott won, when Scott Morrison won, when John Howard won, the polls never indicated that they would win. You know, so it's anyone's race, I think.
The environment and sustainability and politically balance in the world. Well, I lived through the 70s in Sweden, where the big election was to get rid of power, nuclear power. I'm totally against it. I think it's really dangerous. I think especially in this country, they should develop the wind power and the solar. It's good to get in early, to get it done. I guess some people feel a bit traditional to go on the actual day to vote, but we're not going to be here, so we thought this is a good opportunity.
Keir Starmer on Tuesday welcomed the Prime Minister of New Zealand, Kristersson, to attend Downing Street. Now, this comes after both Prime Ministers visited an army camp in southwest England where Ukrainian troops are being trained. Starmer aims to strengthen the UK's defence ties with New Zealand as he hosts the country's Prime Minister. The training, Operation Interflex, takes place at various locations in the UK and involves more than a dozen international partners.
I think it is incredible that all of the predictions at the beginning of this conflict were that the aggressor, Russia, would succeed very quickly, and they didn't, because of the resilience of the Ukrainians, because you fought back and fought for your country, and fought for all of us in fighting for your country. Now, 3 years in, it's important that we all step up on defence and security. It's been
I want you to know that you are deeply inspirational to us, that we have huge admiration for your bravery, for your courage, and for the sacrifice that you make. It is incredibly sobering to think that many of you have been to this place to train. You've been out to the battlefront. You've come back now as leaders to actually do more training, and in a matter of days could be back at the front line again, actually fighting for freedom and the defence of your country in what is an incredibly unjust, illegal and immoral war started by Russia. And so I want you to know that you are heroes. President Zelensky is a hero, and all Ukrainian citizens are heroes as well in our eyes.
Now, elsewhere, the Russian President Vladimir Putin announced plans to host a summit with Arab League countries later this year. This move aims to strengthen relationships with Middle Eastern nations amid ongoing tensions over its actions in Ukraine. The announcement came during a meeting with Sultan Haytham bin Tariq of Oman, marking the first ever visit to Russia by an Omani head of state. The Sultan's visit follows recent discussions between Putin and Qatar's Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Ahmad Al Thani in Moscow, where they addressed issues concerning Syria and Gaza. Now to the war in Ukraine. Russia struck the Ukrainian city of Zaporizhzhia with 2 guided aerial bombs on Tuesday, killing a woman and injuring 26 other people, including 4 children. Regional officials said that Russia forces also launched drone attacks on the city of Kherson in southern Ukraine and the city of Kharkiv in the northeast. The attacks came as both Russia and Ukraine are under pressure from the United States to demonstrate progress toward ending the war that began with Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. Regional Governor Ivan Fedorov said doctors were treating the children, all boys aged 3 to 16, as well as others injured in the attack. And that's all on Beyond the Continent. Now, do remember that you can send your eyewitness reports to the WhatsApp number displayed on your screens now. And follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You may also watch News Central live on DSTV Channel 422, GoTV Channel 23, StarTimes Channel 274, and Able TV, and of course on YouTube. Now, many thanks for watching. My name is Mazino Appeal.